Da.
You do this, right? Okay.
You're right.
Yeah, it's always like when
You
you
get excited because you're
I
gonna.
know you got to run and jump to the intro. Hello, welcome to the Trout Spinners. And joined my pop guest this week is Russian pop act Tattoo. Tattoo, lovely to see you here.
Da.
Da. Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to discussing that.
I'm not really Tattoo. I'm Gary. I'm with Miles.
All right.
Oh, you actually did you? Was that an actual intro, or were you just pretending?
I thought we could do that. I mean,
Yeah. Let's make it the intro.
shit though.
Let's make it the intro.
This
It's a
show.
shit intro.
How you doing?
Is
How you
this?
doing? What's going on? What's going on?
Not much. You know. Do you want to hear about my essays?
I
You always
don't.
ask about. Then switch off.
I'd rather hear about your views about the things that are going on in the Oval Office, the US situation. Just because I think our listeners like to hear. I think what you're good at is you're very good at taking a very complex thing and boiling it down into its simple components, so idiots like me can understand.
Well, you couldn't have put more pressure on me by saying that than you did. Yeah, well, it's just feels different. It kind of obviously there's technical differences in their approach, but it just feels different. It makes you feel it makes me feel more normal, return to normalcy. Just to see him behind the Oval desk, and
Old fella looks like a little turtle with his shell on.
That's Mitch McConnell. That's Mitch McConnell looks like that. The minority Senate leader. Yeah, I didn't support him in the primary, but I certainly supported him as the general. And yeah, please, he's won, mate. It's it feels. I remember texting a friend 4 years to the day ago, a couple of days ago, and saying it's so weird that we refer to Obama as the president, and he's the president. But it's so weird that in one day, all those decisions, those presidential decisions, and Mr. President and the President will refer to Donald Trump. And now it's kind of like it's gone back to that day 4 years ago, before that time of Trump. Now we're after it. It just feels more normal. It's not like profound take, but it's just
No, I was expecting a bit more, if I'm honest with you. Sort of like a David Mitchell or a Charlie Brooker kind of like dissection of that news. But yeah, it's a good thing, and I'm broadly in agreement with you.
You can read my Guardian article that's coming out on the subject.
I'll tell you what, though, my mum did sort of say about Joe Biden, like, because he's so funny the way he does his little run. He got first announced that he was president. He sort of charged onto the stage into like a little old man waddle, but he can't hold it up for that long. But you do think with someone like him, like he belongs like in a garden centre of a Sunday, picking up a little hanging basket or like a nice rake or something.
I say it's it's good to return to normalcy, and I support Joe Biden, but in all seriousness, like, he has serious cognitive issues. They're not his fault. They don't make me dislike him.
Already.
But he has cognitive, and I wouldn't even have him in a garden centre, really. I think there could be an accident with the rakes.
Yeah, I was going to say that, right? Sort of sideshow Mel style. Yeah. No, I think so. But also, do you have
Sideshow Bob? We've actually had an email, which we'll be reading out later in XFM in the community, coming up, by the way, from a fan. He's listened. He likes it. He likes the show. What can I say? But he does a Simpsons podcast that we're going to talk about, or we're going to promote. It's a bit of cross promotion going on.
Synergy.
I can't remember what his name is.
The Trout Spinners podcast, where podcasts meet.
The Melting Pot. Andy Lowe, I think he is. So you mentioned Sideshow Bob, so I just wanted to.
Well, look forward to that. Look forward to this show, because what have we got coming up in addition to the XFM and the community feature that you just mentioned?
That's pretty much it. No, we'll have a general discussion, which we always have about the episode, and that's episode 39, series 2 today. We'll have our favourite quotes, XFM in the community as well, so we go through your feedback and finish off with a song, if I can think of one between now and then. That means a lot to me. It means so much to me, this song that I just thought of.
Hey, here we go. This week we discuss episode 39, 17th of May 2003. Vowing to improve the show after last week's Sony failure, Ricky consults Dr. Fox and attempts to interact with the listeners. I'll put a link to the original show in the description, and you can listen to that, and in your own time, you can return to us for our little debrief. Hello! Hello!
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Welcome back. We should do then is we should cut, but leave it off, and we should sit there between
for an
hour and just wait. And so there's an hour of no noise, and
we should do that. Actually,
we'd probably get more audience.
It'll be a bloody long show as well.
Yeah.
How did you find this week's show? Because I know you were very excited about it, weren't you?
No, I was more excited about last week's show. I think I said last week that there's a run of shows now, starting with last week's 38, that I really enjoy and that are really strong shows for different reasons, actually. So this is included in that, but I'd say it's one of the weaker shows in this run of shows. It's still one of the stronger shows that they've done. I liked it. There was some very good moments, interesting moments as well, but it's not up there with my favourites. But it's still a very good show, and in this run of shows, I think it's because partly last week was so good that it's always kind of a come down to come to this episode. Not that it's a bad episode or anything like that, but it can never match last week's. Last week with Gerald Preston, which I could listen to that every day, 5 times a day before I die, and not.
Can I tell you something? I'm not a fan of the Gerald Preston joke. It never gets me like it got loads of other people.
Find it funny.
No, I know that's what I mean, but it never. I get it.
It's so ridiculous that it's not. It's just not funny. It's just not funny. That's why it's so funny.
I know, but that's maybe I'm looking at it a bit too literally. But I was just like, I've also listened to it so many times. It's hard for me to find things funny again sometimes.
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the interesting things. This is probably the only show out of all of them that I've ever listened to where Ricky is genuinely putting in a bit of effort behind the scenes. Like he said before, like Carl sort of suggested, maybe you could answer the phone. No way.
No
way. Like he never would answer the phone. So but now he's kind of doing those things. You're answering the phone, checking the email, and it lasted for one show only. And he didn't even get it right. The stuff that he said, like he got it all wrong. And Jessica's going out to the X-Men. He forgot all the things, but he was genuinely trying. And that wasn't like they weren't putting that on as a joke because he had the information from the email. So he must have been reading them off air. I think it's the only show he's put in some off-air effort. So that's
funny. It's that bit where he goes, I can't even get that right.
Yeah.
He goes,
Steve,
just noticing about X-Men's not out. Shut up. He does put a bit of effort in at the start because he goes out of his way to talk to Dr. Neil Fox of Pop Stars fame, and he was on DJ as well at Capital as well. But he invites him on. Well, I can only just say that
innocent man.
Innocent. Not a defamation of character at all. Yeah, it's interesting because he says, it's an entertainment show. We're looking for an entertainment show. It's just not entertaining. Bit of planning, bit of prep would be nice, which you were never going to get with this show. You would never have got. I mean, it's remarkable that they even got nominated, to be honest.
It's a brilliant show, and I'd award it a gold award. However, we were saying last week, if you haven't bought into the world and you just listen to one episode, which is all they can send in, one episode, and you listen to it, it's such a weird world that, probably Jimmy and Dave's little show on as a Canterbury FM that appeals to the Canterbury audience probably would seem better as a one-off show. But you have to get into the body of the work before you kind of appreciate it so much. But I don't know. It's great they didn't win the award because it kind of sets up the tone for these next few shows. And I think when we get to episode 44, it's the tense. Oh God, it's so tense to listen to. The one where they have a real falling out.
Where Ricky can't do his swearing feature.
Ricky can't do his swearing skit. I think that stems from their kind of change in approach since they didn't win a Sony. I think that kind of stems from that, not directly, but maybe indirectly. These little things they're doing, these little kind of, they do at the moment. They're doing these interviews. They interviewed Coldplay last week, Tattoo this week. Good interviews. But yeah, I think it stems from that. So it's great they didn't win a Sony.
Well, do you know what I find funny though? To celebrate or just going out in the XFM office, which I would have loved to have worked at XFM during this particular phase. Just the thinking of like the parties, the sort of the characters that would have been around the office, like the music artists, but the fact that they go to Stringfellows for a night out.
But would you want to go to Stringfellows?
Like, absolutely not. No, but Stringfellows, if you're not in London, is what is it? Is it kind of like
it's a strip club?
It is a strip club, isn't it? But do they do other things there, or is it a strip club?
Well, I think they produce photographs. Like you send in your photo camera reel, and they give you photographs. I think you get a drink. You know, it's like a club in that sense. You can drink, and that's what it is. It's a club, but
and
it's
Peter Stringfellow was he's dead now, isn't he, Peter Stringfellow?
Yeah.
But he was like a entrepreneur, I guess, like a businessman, club operator.
Yeah, he was like Hugh Hefner.
Hugh Hefner, yeah.
So he's a bit like the British Hugh Hefner. I was watching a great interview of Hugh Hefner on the Dick Cavett show. Dick Cavett is putting out a lot of interviews at the moment. Like he interviewed people back in the 70s and 80s, and there's one with Hugh Hefner who's next to two feminist activists, and it's really interesting to see how the interview went. So I'd recommend that to anyone. But Peter Stringfellow, what a guy!
He's a bit of a character, isn't he? Yeah, he's a bit of a knob. But he looks a bit like the Bee Gees, like the fourth member of the Bee Gees with blonde hair. Have you ever been to a strip club?
No, never been to a strip club. I've been to some pretty seedy clubs, but not a strip club. Like clubs where there's people dancing on poles, and they kind of are acting a bit like a stripper, but they're not sort of dancing and seductively. But they're not. You don't put money in their knickers or anything, and they're not. So it's pretty seedy places I've been to, but.
Coyote Ugly style. I can't, to be honest, I can't think of anything worse. I'm not like a laddie lad, but I can't think of anything worse than going to a strip club. I just think there's something really, really weird about a bunch of men together just lusting over women that they can't have.
Unless AOC is performing at one, and then he's straight down there. He loves a bit of AOC. You're not a laddie lad. We're not laddie lads. We don't go to strip. No, we would never, like for us, we went to Little Dainty Spa. That's our lads' place to go.
I don't see. I just never. You know, when you got like the sort of lads that I grew up with in Ipswich, they would quite happy watch pornography together, and I just think,
oh my god. Can you imagine doing that between us? They can't think of anything worse.
But how awkward! But you know, people say watching a sex scene with your mum or your dad is really awkward. I don't find that awkward. I find sitting and watching pornography, which I never would do. But I would never do that in the company of other heterosexual men. It just wouldn't be a thing that would. I don't imagine how anyone could get off on that. It's really, really weird. And sitting there with people who are your friends, but
with your knob out, I assume.
With your knob out.
I assume that's what they do. I don't know.
You've got masturbating together.
It's a very solitary
some
thing.
Sort of synchronized swimming event. It's not.
I think
that's not sexy, is it?
There's sort of people who would go to the toilet when someone else is in the room, properly use the toilet. I think. I don't know, but yeah, it's no, and a strip club is similar because the whole point of a strip club is it's supposed to be sexual. You're supposed to get sexually aroused, but you're with your mates. That's the time I don't want to be sexually aroused unless you go to a strip club on your own, which I still wouldn't do. But it's just.
Well, you definitely couldn't invite a stripper just to come around your flat. I mean, you can do that now, can't you? You can do all sorts these days.
Yeah, well, not with social distancing, maybe, but
But as soon as the restrictions are lifted, I know what I'll be doing.
Get a couple of strippers around. Money. Just my table clear.
Something I do really like about this episode, and actually loads of the Detroutees have been saying this as well. So when Carl says, "I've got a lot going on in my head,"
yeah.
Just after
you've got to say it right. I've got a lot going on in my head. It's that pause. That pause is what makes it.
But he says, I haven't slept well since I was 12.
No, he says, I haven't slept well
for years.
I haven't slept well since I was about 12. That's why it's funny, because he's kind of yeah.
And Ricky's got some fantastic laughs like throughout this whole episode. And I'll get to them in my favourite quote.
That's well, it's not even. It just, the tone is the same. Like it doesn't look like a laugh. It's not like anyone else's laugh in the world. That cut that out.
It really makes me laugh. Because I love the look that you got a little fella in string clothes. It's got to me, and he's got. It's going cold. It's going cold. Anyway, but I love that. There's a few people on our Twitter has been saying I haven't had a good night's sleep for years and years and years. This is them talking, not me, because I'm actually quite a relatively deep sleeper. Yeah, but I do understand that. You know, when you've got not a care in the world and you've been running, you're exhausted all day because you've been out with your mates either on your bike or you've been playing video games, and you can literally switch your mind off and you're so zen and relaxed and you just drop off. And it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, well, it's a nice anecdote, I think, is that I can totally relate to that, the people on Twitter. I have sleeping tablets, actually, that I don't always take, but they're very good. But without them, I don't sleep very well at all. But the thing about Carl is, like, when the time you don't want to sleep, most people, the time you really don't want to sleep is when you're a kid. You don't want to go to bed. You want to stay up an extra hour, an extra hour. You know, you stay up under the covers. You know, if you're sleeping with like in the same room as your siblings, you're kind of just talking and chatting. You want to stay up as much as possible. But Carl, as a 12-year-old, is already how we are now as people in our 30s. He was already like, I'm laughing myself to sleep, you know, then. But most children, usually, they want to stay up later and later. So it's nice. But Carl is already, it's just another example of Carl being far older than his actual age.
No, well, that's lovely, isn't it, when he says, there was actually one time where I laughed myself to sleep because I couldn't believe my luck. Like, that was the best thing that could have happened to you.
Yeah, that's another time.
It's the emphasis on it. I couldn't believe my luck. I can't believe this.
Well, I totally know what it means. We all know. Yeah, and even what Ricky says is nice. A cold pillow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever the temperature is, if it's winter or summer, cold pillow, for some reason, like, you associate sleep with warmness and being warm and cozy, but actually a cold pillow that you put your head down into is really attractive. And like, if you've been sleeping on one pillow and you kind of wake up in the middle of the night and that pillow's warm now because you've been sleeping on it, and you go to the other pillow and it's cold, and it's like,
Are you a fan of the memory foam mattress?
Yeah, I've got a memory foam mattress. It has to be like that treble layered and kind of, has to be a really good quality one. Mine isn't quite good enough. The only type of mattress that I can get into my flat, because you can bend a memory foam mattress, but you can't bend a mattress with springs.
And you saw a bit off, perhaps?
My door is so, a bit off. I sawed off 8 inches, and it's fine because I'm still alone, so it doesn't matter. I'm just one person. So I probably could saw off 8 inches because I'm gonna always be alone. I don't need that extra 8 inches.
I'll tell you what. Well, since you're feeling pretty zen about that, you're pretty happy about your current situation. Can I read you some quotes from Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance?
Are these quotes you found by reading the book, or quotes where you Googled quotes from Zen and
I'm not going to read it, because I thought that book was all about, I genuinely thought it was about motorcycles.
Come on.
No, that's true. I've never heard about this book.
Okay, fair enough.
What is it about then? What is this book? Can you explain to me?
It's a philosophical book. I haven't read it. I haven't read it either. But it's like a philosophical book about, like, the Zen part is far more. I don't know what's behind its name. Like, I don't know, there was something in that, but I love names like that are kind of a misdirection as to what you're going to get. But it's about kind of philosophy. I can't go deeply into it because I don't know, but I knew it wasn't about motorcycle maintenance.
Okay.
It's not.
Well, that was what always put me off.
Probably they mention it like, in passing somewhere, and he just thought, I mentioned that in passing. It was so insignificant, but I'm actually going to make it the title. Yeah, but it's like about approaches to life and general kind of ways of being well.
Well, here's one. Sometimes it's a little better to travel than to arrive. Which I sort of agree with that. Isn't that true? It's about the journey and not the destination.
Yeah, it's a bit cliche, but yeah.
I mean, but all these quotes are a bit.
If he's the first one that said it, then fair enough. But now it's cliche. Oh, it's about the journey, not the destination. No, it's about the destination. That's why I'd win on the journey.
They're angry there. Anxiety, the next Gumpton trap, is the sort of opposite of ego. You're so sure you'll do everything wrong, you're afraid to do anything at all. Often this, rather than laziness, is the real reason you find it hard to get started.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. What's that? The next John
Gumpton? Gumption?
Gumption. Oh, gumption. You said Gumpton. Gumption. Yeah, gumption's like, Constitution. But yeah, I totally agree. Anxiety is behind a lot of inability to kind of begin tasks where you just people get written off as lazy, but they're not.
No. And the pencil is mightier than the pen, which is actually quite a famous one, isn't it?
The pen is mightier than the sword is famous.
Oh, yeah. So, but what does that one mean then? The pencil is mightier than the pen.
Well, if I would interpret that, and I don't know what he meant, but the pencil, you write in pencil and you can rub it out. So doing things, that's like on life. If you write in pen, it's there. You can't
permanent,
change it.
Yeah.
But pencil is something you can change and constantly adapt and kind of rub bits out that you need, and it's like life, fulfilling your dreams, I imagine.
It's interesting. I might read this book now.
Yeah, that's well, I'm not going to be reading that book. I read too much. But it's interesting. You see what I mean now. It's about life and philosophy. It's kind of those quotes kind of.
I always think it's a bit weird, like about self-help books. Like, who reads self-help books and like goes, "Oh, I'm getting a lot from this."
Paul McKenna's done wonders for his bank balance. He sells so much, like
but that doesn't matter that it's for him though, does it? Because if
I know
that
doesn't speak to the quality of the self-help books. I'm just saying that a lot of people read them. You're saying who would read them? Well, actually, a lot of people. He's he sold tons. And in fact, I started to read one once. He had this series.
Worked out well, didn't it?
7 days to get thin, 7 days to stop smoking, 7 days to this. And I think I could say 7 days to success. And I read
Gary's 30 stone and he's smoking a pipe right now.
Yeah.
So it's worked out well.
No, I'm not at all, by the way. I'm not. I've lost weight. Anyway, I read the first chapter of that book and I felt really up. I remember having a conversation with my dad afterwards and I was really assertive and I was doing all the right things, but I didn't read any more of it. So
assertive to your dad going, "Dad, listen, it's your son, Gary. And you listen to me, Dad."
No, it wasn't. That's not assertive. That would be aggressive. I was assertive, and it genuinely, made me feel up and kind of like, oh yeah, there's techniques, but I never kind of followed it through. So here I am, and
here he is,
Skyping with you on a tin pot radio
podcast. Still single, ladies and gentlemen. Still single. Get in touch. spinnerspodcast@gmail.com.
No, you should say. I'll do it like get my tables clear, and you can have a little strip club. I'll come to audition. No, I'm joking. That is a joke. That's disgusting. We'd never do that. But
what do you make of
for my girlfriend on this show? Let's not do. It sounds creepy. Do you know I this episode? Oh, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I was going to just mention the going to Hugh phase, which is tied up in the sleeping chat. When Carl's just talking about his childhood, every night going to Hugh phase, getting some potatoes and some bread. I have actually seen a picture of Hugh phase. I have to tweet it. It's just a newsagent's little shop, and but we used to do it in our first house. That when we were sort of as a family, I used to be very excited about those sort of coming of those rites of passages things like going to the shop on your own and getting a bottle of milk, or getting your first pair of keys to your house. They were such big deals, and I just got this little. I think that's so sweet that Carl did that as a child. I don't know. There's something
for him, it wasn't like a rite of passage. It was just something that was all kind of seemed like it was always done. I can imagine him being
like the Hovis advert.
Yeah, but more swearing from his dad. But he's that's fine. I never thought of it like that. It is kind of a rite of passage when you go to the shop for the first time. And I always remember being able to cross the road for the first time, which eventually meant I could play in the road. We lived in this cul-de-sac, so you didn't get many cars coming through, and they were travelling slowly anyway, so it wasn't that dangerous. But when I was allowed to cross the road, it was like, oh my god, it's mate, and the road like where we played tag and things, so you have to run in the road. Oh, a bit sad now.
Good times. Do
you want to play tag with me?
No, don't want to do it. Later. Musical statues, I preferred that. Stuck in the mud, as we called it back then.
Well, did you ever play Marco Polo?
Yeah, is that when you're
Marco Polo? I can't even remember, but you say Marco and the other person has to say Polo.
Bulldog. I used to love playing Bulldog.
Was good.
So good.
We played that in the playground at school, with
30
children just all running, girls and boys.
I'll have to do that now. Wouldn't it be great to just do kids games like now. Like,
Yeah.
just like, I don't know, maybe have some beer as well to make it more adult, but like play a bit of Bulldog and you get. I just used to love those sort of quite violent games actually.
I can't imagine you liking a violent game like that. Are you sure you
No,
liked it, or are you just
no,
saying?
but I like no, I know, no, I genuinely liked Bulldog because it was kind of, I don't know, there was pressure involved.
I played it. I never got down to the final sort of 2 or 3. I wasn't sturdy enough. The sturdier children had got
Yeah.
that. But yeah, they were kind of fun days, and like I remember pretending with my friend, my best friend at the time, and we were like birds, and all the grass was like when we were on grass, we were in the air, and we were just flying, like we did this with our arms, flapping our arms,
Happen your
just
arms.
pretending we were birds.
It's so
And,
wholesome.
yeah, but that's since I'm 30, I've stopped doing that. Yeah.
I should hope so.
But no, that was only about 5, 6. It's just one of those nice little things. But yeah, childhood in general is not a happy time, I don't think, for a lot of people listening to this show, probably, and us. But there are those happy little moments. Yeah, yeah. I never thought of it like that. But Carl kind of made you think about that. That's nice.
So, on the subject of kids, like, do you ever find it weird? I mean, not weird. I don't find it strange that Carl's not had children, but I bet he would be a great dad and he would be hilarious.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
But he makes a real thing, if it happens, it happens, he says, doesn't he? Like about halfway through the episode, if it happens, it happens. If a condom split. I'm quite amazed at like the level of maturity that they say, because they talk about the kids being an accident, which I think that's quite a difficult thing to raise with your kid if you were a parent. But the more I think about it, I think that's actually like quite a normal thing to say to your child, because you should have that sort of transparency and that honesty with them.
Yeah, I mean, it is transparent and it's honest, but there's certain things that are honest that you don't need to necessarily share, and dishonesty is not honesty, a mission of honesty. You can not. I think I wouldn't tell my kid if my kid was an accident. I don't have a kid, but if I had a kid in an accident, I'd tell them that, but yeah, I think it's something you used to do like more than you do now. I wouldn't say, oh, you make a point of saying, oh, you were absolutely planned. I just wouldn't raise that particular subject. I think it's a bit unfair. It kind of gives you a complex. Suddenly you question your entire existence.
But but you could also, I don't know. I guess it depends on how you raise it. I would probably find the humour in it, just to go, it's all right.
If you told you're an accident, you'd be crying for 3 weeks, and you'd be on the phone to me like.
What do you mean you didn't want me? Yeah, I don't know.
It's not a nice thing to be told, but it's interesting that they were both told that, Carl and Ricky, and both of them specifically said they don't and have proved that they do not want children. Yeah, most celebrity couples, most couples have children especially Ricky's in his 50s now, Carl's in his late 40s. So the fact they don't have children is a thing that they shared, actually, and a thing I think they bonded over. Even if that wasn't the explicit thing they were bonding over, I think they bonded quite a lot over that. And maybe not having children, maybe being told you're an accident, is partly responsible for them just not wanting children. I don't know. Because it's shared by them, isn't it?
I guess that was never part of their life plan, though, was it? I mean, whether I don't think either of them had like a life plan, though. To be honest, I think they're both very happy-go-lucky people. Carl's talked about his affection of being a bloody paperboy, and that was the best job he'd ever had. He's quite simple-minded in that respect. So I do totally get the fact that if you don't want kids, if it will just be, if it happens, it happens, and it's like, because I do think, yeah, it's quite normal that kids just sort of do happen like that.
Oh, it's normal. It's normal,
especially nowadays. Like when you people my age, like, there's that whole cliche thing. I'm in my 30s, and loads of my mates are having kids and getting married, and that's like seems to be quite a cliche thing to say.
Because you probably starting to get this, like you people you're friends with on Facebook, you're not necessarily friends with them, but you kind of see them, and they're starting to show pictures of, I'm welcome to the world, Olivia, and no, it's fine. But I'm of the age where I'm starting to see pictures, people I'm not actually friends with, but they're just from people from school in my year, of their children dressed in secondary school uniforms, and they're starting. So some of my cohort their children are starting secondary school now. So yeah, I'm happy not to have a child, but maybe I
Well, I
probably
find it
would.
mental, like, but I've got friends who are adamant, like, they don't want kids, never going to have kids. And now they have got kids. And it's like something, just a light switch went off, and suddenly they're plastered all over their social media accounts. And it just seems, I mean, I've got my own concerns about kids. I don't have kids, but, it's touch and go at the moment. It's potentially on the cards, but probably more likely than
Not
not.
for a while,
No,
probably.
no, no, of course not. But I just see someone's personality switch overnight, and they're just posting endlessly about their kids. And I just think, what happened to the person that I used to know? Like, I know that's kind of like a deep thing to say, but
Well, yeah. I
but
mean,
I don't understand. Like, do you have any other interests? Like, it's just your kid now. It's just all about your kid. But then again, it's quite nice because that person probably has found purpose in that young
yeah,
person. I can respect that, because I go, you were maybe unhappy before and you didn't know it, and you had this child, and maybe this child's given you like purpose and made you happy in some way. But I don't think it's the solution to people's problems, and I don't think it's the solution to my problems. But what I'm trying to say is there is a bit of truth in that with Carl. Sometimes it's better just to not have a plan. It's never going to be a good time to have a kid, but if you do, you might figure out, oh, it's all right actually.
yeah. I think that's, but I don't, I think that's roughly where most people are. If you're doing stuff that means you could have a child and not taking precautions, you're probably in that space. Like, well, we're not planning to have children. We're not doing this specifically on the days of the month where ovulation is most likely, and planning it in a calendar. But we're doing this. We probably enjoy it, but we're also kind of like, yeah, maybe we'll have a kid. I think most children are born that way. But in general, people are having children later in life now, where in my nan's time and even my mum's time, my mum and dad, you had a kid in your 20s. That was what you did. You
Yeah.
just did that. You had a kid. But now 30s, 40s, see, people having children later. So I think that's probably a good thing. But I did like at school the fact I had particularly young parents. Sometimes my at parents' evenings and things, you'd see other parents of children, and they were like in their 60s then. They looked old. They were old people.
Well, so
Mine
what,
were
so
like,
your mum and your mum turn up looking like Tattoo in
my
their
mum,
school
my mum.
uniforms against the gates, and it was raining, obviously,
Oh
and
God,
they
I'm
said, "Look,
glad
I
it
think he's
wasn't
dead."
I'm glad it wasn't Mum and Coral back then, because not because I mean Coral is a teacher, she's great, but she's quite a force of nature.
I'm
Um,
mysterious. I feel totally lost. If I'm asking for help, it's only because
it's a good song. Actually,
it is a good
we're
song,
very good.
actually.
Yeah, it's very catchy. Like I
But
really
that
like.
was the thing back then. Like, everyone was like, "Are they lesbians? Are they lesbians?" Like, it's like, who cares? But that was quite a shocking thing to see back then. I remember that video. Everyone was talking about it at school.
Yeah,
All
because
she
it's
said.
kind of like it's as close to pornography as you're allowed on like mainstream
Yeah.
TV. Like, but it's not
That was also
pornography.
when like Christina Aguilera was doing "Dirty." My mum fucking hated that song. She was like,
Mine didn't.
"Turn that off."
My mum didn't.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me,
Hey,
mate.
no, I don't know what about it.
What's the strangest thing you've ever eaten in a bath?
Oh God, I don't know. A banana. It's just weird peeling a banana in a bath.
Who I wouldn't be in the mood for a banana or a bit of fruit. I'm more with Ricky. That it does make me laugh though, the thought of Ricky in a bath and him just telling these stories, really self-deprecating stories. But he's quite proud of that moment, isn't he? He's like,
Yeah.
I found a workaround here. I can eat. I can lie on my stomach in the bath and be
No, he's
clean.
not lying on his stomach. He's lying on his back. But yeah, it's that's another thing about Ricky is he's very honest with his things that make him that it would be embarrassing to most people. But that's the thing about embarrassments in general. If you've got something you're embarrassed about, I'd give you this advice based on what Ricky does. Don't hide it. Celebrate it. Talk about it. Like do it ironically, but just sort of you be the one to bring it up and kind of you'll save yourself any accusations of being embarrassing because no one would hear that and sort of think anything bad of Ricky. But it is an embarrassing thing to tell, but because he told it, and because he told it in a funny way, do you know what I mean? It gets over the embarrassment of it.
Well, you can read all about that in Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, where it actually features. There's a line there from Gary.
Yeah, no, version 2 by Gary.
Version 2.
The slightly less well-read version.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you wanted to add about this episode?
No, I really like the Rockbusters, because the Rockbusters are good. Two things make good Rockbusters. One, if they're interesting clues, like that actually kind of usually that work, or that are so bad that they don't work. Some clues are just, they're all right. They're not funny or profound either way. They're okay. These ones actually are really good clues, and there's a lot of laughter. Like
there is a lot,
There's a lot of laughter beforehand when he's reading them out, and it's a very funny process. Like, it's one of the funnier Rockbusters that there's ever been, I think, and that adds to the episode.
It's because Carl keeps going, right?
Well, it just changes.
If I had a brick and I threw it at two women, right?
No, every word matters. Yeah, they're very good clues. Well, they're good clues.
You could say we're going through a bit of a China crisis right now.
Yeah, is that we're gonna take a break to contemplate that?
So. Yeah.
Just finally, before we get to our favourite quotes, the audience is so fucking weird. I mean, the live audience. That guy who comes on. It's
You're
so
the soundest
weird.
radio station.
The eyebrows woman, him. They're just weird. It's just a lot of weird people listening. Probably weird people listening to the podcast, but you get a lot of people listening to them. But the actual live audience at the time, I think, was just, they're so weird. They attracted such weirdos. That guy is like, I don't understand what he's saying. I've listened 100 times and I can't understand. Well, and you Christian, and just say, and get him to walk down, and it doesn't make sense, like the words he's saying. So yeah,
he's saying you couldn't have found a worse lot, but keep it up. It just made me laugh because he's saying, like, keep it up. You'll get there. Like, it doesn't mean you talk to Ricky Gervais.
Yeah,
he's made the office. He doesn't give a shit.
I know he doesn't know, but they're so weird. But anyway, let's get down to our favourite quotes.
Yeah, let's do it. My first one. Do you ski, yes or no?
I was just about to say I'm going to go first, because I know that's going to be your first one.
I want that to be a prerequisite for people to identify whether to the Trout spinners. If we can make that a thing.
The name of the show could have been "Do You Ski, Yes or No?" Like that was in the running for the name of the show. That's the way he says it. I love it. That was my first quote as well.
We have talked about
mine.
String.
Hey, look, it's my. I swear, my second one was, we have talked about string in the. We never had. I swear, like, I've got it here. Do you ski, yes or no? We have talked about string in the past.
I had an inkling that you might do the string quote, because it's such a bizarre thing to say.
It's the way he says, though. It's the way he does that thing where he kind of feigns. I don't know how to describe it. He kind of feigns like being a simpleton slightly. We have talked about string in the past, though. It's just like, okay, I'll do two now, because you just done two.
Right.
It seems like it, and I like that. That's another example I've talked about in the past of Steve doing a little pre-laugh. Like he when he says something, he knows it's going to be funny.
Yeah.
He does this little. It seems like it,
but Ricky Cole treats that question absolutely with earnest, doesn't he? Because he goes, "You're not paid per listener, are you?" As if it was a genuine concern.
I just like the way he says this. In fact, you can maybe clip this up and put it at the beginning. But
okay.
Thank you, but I copied Nigel's. Thank you, but I copied Nigel's. I always like that.
I'll tell you what, I forgot that bit was in this show, actually, because isn't he talking about if I've seen further than it. Ricky's got these like certain people that he will always return to, like Isaac Newton. He's got these certain people that he'll always return to. When you do realise, I don't know, I think Ricky does at times. He knows a lot about a few very specific things, but he will repeat himself when it comes to like a particular philosopher, a quote, or a scientist, or his knowledge about that stuff is quite minimal. Do you not think?
No,
because
call it minimal, but I think he knows more than an average person would know.
Yeah.
But the thing about Ricky is, and that's okay. I don't expect Ricky to be a philosopher. Bear in mind, his job is a comedian. He's a very successful at that time. Now even more so, but even then, a very successful career in comedy. Now, outside of that, yes, you're right. He does return to certain philosophers, and he probably doesn't know that many, but that's okay because some people don't know about philosophers at all, and it's good to have some knowledge. I don't expect people to know lots about it. Where Ricky falls down, I think what his problem is that he uses his knowledge, his limited knowledge, but acceptable but limited knowledge of these things to kind of exert dominance over other people.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. That's a better way of putting it. Yeah.
But now that's different with Carl, because Carl plays the role, and I use that in inverted commas. He's not an actor, I know, but he plays the role of far more stupid person than he actually is. So you can kind of do that with Carl, but I can imagine Ricky doing that with everyone in his life. The way he puts Cole down is always funny, except when he's trying to exert his dominance in that way by philosophers or painters. Lowry is the classic example.
You've got a real problem with that, yeah.
Yeah, it really, really annoys me. But having said so, I don't criticise Ricky at all for the amount of philosophy that he knows, or even bringing up some philosophy, because people do that. If you know about something. Not everything, but some things you're going to bring up in conversation.
No. I'm not having a go, but I just think it's curious that he returns to those same people, and it's like, if you are going to boast about your education or your academia or however you want to classify, I would just be going always with a spell of caution, trying not to big myself up. But that's Ricky. That's his personality. He's larger than life, and he does like to show off his academic credentials, but I wouldn't do that, and I don't think the vast majority of people. As I've said before in this podcast, I would never engage in a conversation where I didn't know enough, and I've been caught out so many times with pretending to know. Yeah, of course. I mean, you know that about me. But it's one of those things.
No, I have as well. We all have.
No, but it's an ego thing, isn't it? It's purely an ego thing. You go, all right, I'm going to enter this person's conversation. I know nothing about what they're saying, but I'm going to put up with it and see if I can get away with the. It's that same thing. When there's the same thing, in the IT crowd, he goes, "Did you see that ludicrous display last night where they're trying to get in with the men?"
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Moss and Roy want to get in with this group of men, and to get in with them and to pretend to be a lad, they've memorized a few stock phrases, but they end up getting themselves into a lot of trouble. And the episode climaxes with a bank heist, and it's just funny because that's how I feel about entering a conversation with a subject that I know nothing about. I just go, oh shit, back out now. Because
the thing you do is that you can enter into conversations like that, but just be open and honest, and never kind of what Ricky does, which is like kind of fill in the gaps where you don't actually know a lot about the specific subject. You fill in those gaps with other knowledge that to kind of show, oh, I do know something about this.
Yeah.
Just be very open and clear. Actually, if we're talking about films, I say, I haven't seen that film, or I don't know what you mean there, or I have got some views on films that I will say, but I'll always caveat it.
Okay, cool. Should we do our next quote? Who was next?
Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah.
Okay, you ready? You ready for this? Quiet
Yeah.
in the halls. The reason why I had to die. Did I bleed the god of bleed? God, I'm gonna do it again.
No, keep that one.
Okay.
Keep that in.
The reason why I had to die. Did I bleed the blood of greed? What was my destiny?
Yeah.
I have found myself. That's probably up there with one of my most quoted Ricky lines, and it just makes me laugh so much. That does.
It's funny that he remembered it as well all these years, and even his contemplation, the fact that he remembered it all these years, he's sort of contemplating on that, thinking it's crazy that I've remembered this. But you do remember little things like that from your childhood, weird little things.
Well, Carl remembers that thing, doesn't he? When he said, "Tell me anything you remember from your school days." In series 1, they go, "It's not the cough that carries you off; it's the coffin that carries you often."
Yeah.
Which is great. It's
it's another little. I'm trying to think of one that I know now that I can't.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I could remember a lot about the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. I think it's the 19th or 20th century lyrical poem from
Yeah.
Coleridge, and I could probably remember a lot of that. I'm not going to do it now because I did it at school, but for the exam I had to memorize loads and loads of the passages from it. There is arranged marriage and then we come around the free. I don't want to do it now because I'll get it wrong.
But I know what you mean. But it's Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. And if Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Now, before I knew that, I would say my number one goal in my whole life, if I could pick one thing, not money, not women, I was only about 7 anyway.
Yeah.
Not success in my work, but was to learn that. And I tried so hard, and I did. And now I know it, but now I know it, but I push it like.
Hey,
Peter, I don't know about Peter Piper. But yeah, it's those things you learn and you never forget. And in fact, it's something about long-term memory, because my grandpa's sister, my sort of step-aunt, she was very sad. She suffered from dementia. It's terrible. We used to go visit her in her home, and she got progressively worse. And she couldn't remember who we were, and she didn't know our names. But we'd say to her, because we knew she knew this, she was like, what was Peter's number during the war? 2783956. And she just knew it. It's just like from 70 years ago. Your long-term memory is a completely different bank to your short-term memory. It is me. It's on that thing. Like, so I love it. There's a person.
There's a man.
Me. It is me. that's just so good, because he makes it the worst version of that poem you could possibly write.
Oh, it's so true as well. What they say, like, you do want it to appear so much deeper and interesting.
Yeah.
Than you are. My next one. Ha! Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you had that. Yeah.
Ha! Ha!
Beginning. Yeah, no, it's great. It's funny because it's not a laugh. It's not a laugh for anyone else. We said it before, but I've got a lot going on in my head.
That was my one as well.
We've got a lot of similar.
Ours are so identical.
We have similar. Yeah, it's funny.
White sliced loaves, King Edward.
Love
that.
Yes. Picasso. All right. Love that.
That's great. I got down on one knee and presented her with some inland revenue forms.
Yeah.
Or do you want a ring or a 1% saving? Or like, I don't understand that joke, by the way. Can I just say?
Well, because you get tax breaks when you're married.
But I don't know what does you mean tax breaks? What does that mean?
So you don't pay as much tax in a joint way. So, for example, you will, I don't know if it's done what means it's done through, but you get money back for being married. Now I think they've changed it, so you don't, whether you're married or not, as long as you're in a relationship, you actually no. I'm pretty sure it's not that. I think they bought the marriage. The Conservatives bought the marriage thing, so they're trying to encourage marriage basically by saying you pay less tax.
Does it matter to encourage marriage? Like, why would you encourage that?
I know now. I've told you that, and I can see in your head you're thinking of marriage now because you pay less tax. I can tell. Okay, my next one, my last one. We've said it. Duh. Can
I just do two? I've got two.
Yeah.
Parts of Wivenhoe that you haven't seen yet. I love but Carl's philosophy on travelling is brilliant, and I think it's a lot of particularly small-minded Englanders who probably think I've seen it though on the telly. And of course, one of my great anecdotes, and they return to this time and time again, which is the fireman story and the stripping off naked Bucks Fizz one.
Yeah.
But it's that quote which always makes me laugh, and you've said it before. It always makes me laugh. Hello, is there a fire?
Hello, is there a fire? I like when they talk about it next week, and Steve Rightly says, we'll come to this next week. Steve Rightly comes in and basically says, no one knows what you're talking about. Ricky starts randomly talking about the fireman. He's like, the fireman in a completely different show, like where people haven't listened to the fireman bit. And some people listen to every show, but some people wouldn't have listened to it. But Ricky just starts talking about it, and Steve's like, hang on, no one's going to know what you're talking about there because you're just randomly talking about it. It shows their show was so unplanned in a good way, kind of. It's an example of it. But we'll be talking about that next week.
And if you've got a favourite quote, let us know. spinnerspodcast@gmail.com or on Twitter @spinnerspodcast. We're also on YouTube, where I upload the shows there as well. So lots of different ways to listen, lots of ways to get involved. If you have enjoyed the show, please, I cannot emphasise enough, if if you could like, subscribe, and give us a little cheeky review, because helps us get bigger numbers, more than 100, less than 150, somewhere between that is a good.
Yeah. Well, bad reviews kind of put us down to like maybe 25, 30. A medium review, a 3-star review, 3-star upwards. Maybe that,
4.
yes, 4.
But hey, some people who do enjoy the show, and I'm sure if they were given the opportunity, would give us 5 stars, is some of our detrouties for our next feature, which is XFM in the community.
You got to say it right, XFM in the community.
In the community. This is from Patrick Watkins. He says, I just wanted to say it's great to listen to other milk saucer drinkers talk about a tin pot radio stations from ages ago. I've lost count of how many times I've been through the shows, and it is difficult finding other people willing to talk shit and endlessly quote mindless drivel. I do have a couple of questions regarding how it's influenced your lives, as it has mine. What's the best life lesson you've taken from the shows? Whether it's things you can do with potatoes, stopped giving to comic relief, etc. Number 2, if you could ask Carl Pilkington one question, what would it be? Other than why, to try and confuse him. And number 3, is there any particular sayings or phrases that you find yourself using in the real world? For example, a look of frightenness. Those are good.
Yeah, loads, absolutely loads. I can't even think of one now, but there's so many. Oh yeah, I mean, this is like, it's not even a phrase from the show. This is a normal phrase. I was on a video conference call, and I need to say basically something didn't make sense, like what someone was saying, and I was like, it doesn't make sense, and I sort of said it like that, and then obviously it's weird to people, like it's not to be funny, because it only kind of means something to me. But the first question, well, first of all, thank you for your email, Patrick, really appreciate that, glad you're enjoying the show. I think the biggest lesson I've taken from the shows as a whole is be honest, be open, like open about everything, like not everything in life. If you're doing a show, and we used to do a show on radio, and we never copied them, and we don't copy them now at all. You should never copy someone, but the general style of being like, if you make a mistake, it goes on air, and you kind of, you embrace that, and that's more applies to like wider life as well. Kind of, if you embrace your imperfections, you protect yourself, first of all, from other people kind of bringing them up and actually making you feel bad about it, but also it just enhances your confidence to kind of be open and out there with things that you do wrong. And I didn't learn that solely from the show, but it's certainly a lesson I've taken from the shows overall. Do you know what I mean by that?
I completely. I would have said something along those same lines. What I like about Carl Pilkington is, again, it's not like a life lesson, a specific life lesson. It's more generally about him and his character. I used to be quite a people pleaser when I was younger.
When you were 30.
Yeah, no, honestly, I'm not like that now, and I haven't been like that for years. I honestly haven't. Even the little things that Carl says about to his like Suzanne's parents, a bit bigger for the two of you. And I know he's not trying to be. There's a little. That's quite funny, because he's been a little bit out there, like, oh, shouldn't really say that. But Carl will be very, very honest with you, and I love that. Robin's in the pub. Why? I didn't like him, and I'm not saying that. Yeah. But no, listen, I'm not saying that's a good way to be. But say, for instance, you don't feel like going out, and you say, "Oh, I'll come out." But if you don't feel like it, don't go to the party. That's what I like about Carl. He doesn't feel that pressure to be liked. He doesn't feel that pressure to go along with things just because it's the cultural social norm. He's absolutely fine to pursue his own route and his own life path, and I totally respect him for that. And I love that philosophy on life, and it's one that I try to follow.
No, it's similar to mine, but I just say my sort of, when I said about what I took from the show, which was similar to that, like being open and honest, as particularly if you're broadcasting, but in general in life, is not from Carl's sort of openness and honesty and saying things like, Robin, you knew I'd said, was he going to be here? I didn't want him to come. Not by Carl being sort of an open, honest person, but by the general ethos of their show, which was led by Ricky, was like, we embrace the imperfections of this show and we turn them into strengths. If we've done very little preparation, we say very little preparation, and you turn it into a strength by doing that inadvertently, it's not inadvertently, but without kind of being obvious that you're boasting, but you turn it into a strength. So in life, I've found that a very useful lesson to have. There's so many examples of the third one, phrases that I use in life from the show that I can't think of. But what question I'd ask Carl? Good one. I'll think about that. Maybe I'll answer that on the next.
We'll return to that next time. He goes on to say, I've got some homemade rockbusters that I've presented on a quiz, and I used to run during the first lockdown. My manager weighs 160 ton. Oh shit! I've run that.
Oh, leave it in. That's what I say.
My manager weighs 160 stone. I'm so sorry, Patrick. B.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking B.
Yeah.
Something with ton in it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
They played it on the show more than the feeling. I think is one of the songs.
More than the feeling. Boston. Okay. Boston. Okay, yeah, I quite like that one. We've got sent some pretty shit rockbusters. I like the shitter the better, but that's a good one.
That is a good. Okay, this is a good one as well. I won't do all of them. Like, what was the last time in history where people lived in tiny houses? S. What's the small house?
A small house, a flat.
Maybe not so much something that you'd find in a town setting, more rural.
Tent.
Close. S, but begins with S.
I can't think. What is it? What?
Shack.
Okay, shack. Yeah.
And second Shakira.
Oh, Shakira.
When you talk like that. We'll send over some.
Those are the best we've been sent.
And Pat just said a little bit about myself for reference. Started listening to everything when in school, circa 2006, when I looked like a young Alex Zane. Woo! And haven't stopped since. Even did a music technology degree at university just so that I could get a gig, but my heights got as far as Pilkey's making music. Friends, partner, and family do not listen, so I'm quite isolated when it comes to chatting about this kind of stuff. So your podcast has opened that up for me. Cheers.
No, thanks, Patrick. Really appreciate it. And you're right. A lot of people who've emailed us and got in touch with us for various ways have said that they kind of feel isolated in terms of their show, and they don't have someone to talk about it with. And so it's nice that you can always talk here and send us emails, and that you can't send to your friends. So think of us as like that place where you can share and care.
Share and care. That's our philosophy here.
Who's next?
We've got a lot. I'll just do one more for today, and we'll do the others another time. So this is from John H. Hi lads. A mate turned me onto this show at the start of November, and I've chained the entire show since then. Mate, you've caught up so quickly.
Wow.
Thanks for me get through the November lockdown and gloomy run up to a very different Christmas. I think the most comforting aspect of your show is the confirmation bias I feel every few minutes. The conversations you have are ones that I've had in my head many times before. It's quite eerie sometimes. For example, I think it was episode 1 where one of you said the XFM shows were the genesis of everything Ricky has ever done. That is so true. If I was a bit of a nerdlinger, one rainy weekend, I'd love to go through everything the lads have done ever since The Office Series 1, since the XFM Series 1, Office Season 2 onwards, and pick out every XFM reference or directly lift in them. I'm almost certain you could find a link to the XFM shows in every show, film, stand-up the lads have ever done since. One thing I'd like to implore you to do now is to go back and do Series 1 before you go on to Series 3 and 4. Nowadays, I barely touch 3 and 4. I just found Ricky became too antagonistic and annoying, and Carl began playing the character of Carl Pilkington rather than just being himself. I feel like Series 3 and 4 have so much overreacting, whereas Series 1 has so many incredibly pure moments where Ricky and Steve are still getting to know Carl, and he'll leave them speechless with a comment. In Series 1, Episode 4, Carl asks, what did giants eat that made them so big in the first place? And you can tell Ricky and Steve are genuinely confused as to whether he is joking or not, and the three enjoy a little back and forth about it. In later episodes, Ricky would most likely just screech, calling him an idiot. idiot and tell him to play a record. They engage with what Carl is saying much more early on. Also, White Van Carl is in series 1 is peak XFM show content for me. That's good stuff there, John.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, John. I appreciate that, and I totally agree with you in terms of pureness and authenticity. I'd call it. It diminishes as the series go on. I think it's still here in season 2, but yeah, I agree with you. 3 and 4 are not so much. I wouldn't agree that it's kind of gone by then. They're more embedded in their roles, particularly Carl in series 3 and 4. But there's some great moments in series 3, and I don't think it's like the podcasts. It's different. By the podcast, they are what it is a planned, pre-planned, pre-packaged kind of show that's not scripted, but it's heavily kind of influenced by pre-show direction that they will have been given to Carl. Whereas that isn't the case in series 3 and 4, I don't think. It's just that he is more embedded.
Well, it's quite funny because you got the whole Chris Campling thing comes into series 4, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Where he sort of says, is Carl a fictional character? Do they imagine planning this? It's dreadful.
But it's an interesting suggestion. We've had people say we should go on to series 3 and then 4 and back to 1. That's probably our plan. Is probably to go to series 3 and 4, which are quite short, so they won't take long. Then we'll have done all the series and then go back to 1 where it all began. It's like doing a prequel in a movie or something. But it's an interesting suggestion, and we'll certainly think about it. And if lots and lots of people say that as well, because we value your comment, but if other people say it as well, we might well do that. We might well go on to series 1. And we need to make the decision soon, don't we? Because we're getting towards the end of series 2.
I know. I think we should can it. I think we've done. Yeah. I think we've done all right so far. I think we should can the podcast.
Yeah. After you asked me at the beginning of this podcast and you said, "Oh, you summarised like really well," and you asked me about Joe Biden, and then with my response, you were like, "Oh, it's not as good as I was expecting." I think once you reach that stage, you probably should can it. I think because of my Joe Biden comment, we can it.
Imagine that would be the reason we can. Let's just do one more. And can I just say thank you to everyone who's getting in touch. We really want to read them all, but we just don't have time.
Well, we will
do a 6-hour podcast, which, I wouldn't mind that if I had an endless supply of beer. And
6 hours. Imagine by hour 5 how drunk you've been. How we've been together.
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't mind doing like a Trout Spinners marathon with you, but we would have to be in a pub with access to a bar and at least 20 cigarettes.
No, I think if it was a marathon, it's best over Skype. I think if it's a marathon, it's best over Skype. Because it is because you can't sit in a pub.
We just go to different. No, we'll do a pub crawl. And we'll do like specials in each pub.
Mate, you're too. I'm too old for that. You're too. I don't know, but maybe we'll do that one day. But and we'll possibly do some stuff on Twitch. But yeah, I believe there's one more email. We're going to read one more email out today, but we will try and get to the other emails next show.
This is from Andrew Lowe, who's a Detroutee. Fellas, just listen to your New Year's special on the Radio 2 shows. If you haven't listened to that, please go back. You can listen to that. They're the ones that we put out at Christmas. I take your point about the pre-podcast feel, but only in the sense of them tweaking the show for the audience. In this case, Radio 2 listeners. In the podcast case, US international. I've never thought about that as well, because it would have been a global audience at that point, wouldn't it, with the podcasts? I think we just live in our little UK bubble sometimes. I see the XFM shows as a sort of Carl origin story, just kind of more in line with what we've just heard. And the podcast and subsequent work as Ricky's way to basically milk as much humour out of the RSK dynamic. It's great to listen in hindsight as they gradually start to bring Carl higher into the audio mix. He's quite low volume and background to start with. That's actually very true. Notice that as well. Once he starts to get confidence and introduces anecdotes, you can hear how he becomes a sort of full character to Gervais's petulant boy king. I'm wary, bring me the imbecile. And crucially, he's smart enough to recognise this, and I think he sees it as a way out of a job he's been doing for a bit too long. And he was right. And I actually do agree with you, Andrew, because it's interesting. In series 1, Carl says, I'm actually feel more comfortable with my opinions. It's Ricky who says that. He says he wasn't sure to begin with, but he becomes so much sure of his opinions. He's so much more confident. It's very echoey, as you would expect with the producers, because the mic would have been, they might have been behind the glass or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point. I think the way I would link it to the podcasts is not necessarily just that they're tweaking it for an audience. They're just tweaking the show in general, and probably yes, in the sense that the audience is much wider by then. And on the podcast, they knew the audience would be much wider, and certainly they do tweak it for an international audience. That's true. Less UK references, fewer UK references, but I think they tweak it. It's not just. I would say it's substantially different. In the way that Patrick sort of suggested that series 3 and 4, it's not as pure and it's not as authentic. So I see the the Radio 2 New Year shows as like a gateway to the podcast, which was said before. But that's kind of how I see it, because it's kind of it's pre-planned. They know what a lot of they're going to talk about before they talk about it. They probably primed Carl a little bit, whereas on the podcast they primed Carl completely, like, not tell him what to say, but make sure you're going to say something interesting about this topic and this topic and this topic, and we're going to bring them up. So yeah, it's primed not just for the audience being different, but it's just primed. I think they just were changing their approach and ethos to it, and kind of trying to milk Carl for more and more. So yeah,
I'd be fucking. I'll tell you what. If I was Carl at this stage, I'd be fucking knackered. I don't think I could carry on that sort of weight of expectation on me every week, like to come up with interesting stuff. And I'm no surprise that now he's sort of sick of interviews and sick of why he doesn't want to return to do anything, because he's spoken about it all so much. You must just feel like your life has just become an endless towel that you're wringing out, an endless damp towel that you're wringing out just for stuff, and
it smells now,
and it's starting to smell and get a bit damp.
But yeah, if you are listening though, Carl, get in touch.
Oh well, yeah, no, I mean, obvious,
because we want you. But yeah.
Anyway, Andrew goes on. I'll just wrap up his point. Also, you mentioned Simpsons podcasts, as we mentioned at the start of the show. I'm a huge Simpsons fan and nerd, and I produce a podcast that's similar in spirit to yours. Just me and a friend rewatching and reviewing the Simpsons episodes in order from the start. We've been doing it since March 2020 and documenting the latest on the lockdown isolation horrors with each episode. It's called Stay at Homer. I've actually listened to it, Andrew. It's really enjoyable and really, really good. You guys have really good chemistry and banter at the start, and I do actually enjoy that. Insofar as I really enjoy this review on the Simpsons. I've also been watching so much Simpsons over lockdown, and it'll be really interesting to listen to a show properly with that in mind, and actually hearing you guys discuss it, because I know a bit about Simpsons, but I definitely don't know as much as.
Well,
I'm very excited.
I'm really interested in that. It sounds fascinating, actually, and what a great idea. And yeah, you're kind of, the fact you're doing it kind of in the way we're doing this, it kind of validates the idea of doing it in this way. And I love The Simpsons. Absolutely, I love it. But I love series 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I just wonder, out of interest, how are you starting? You're probably going from series 1, episode 1, because Simpsons. I imagine that's what you're doing. That's what most people do. We just have chosen to do it in a different way. But yeah, series 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, particularly 4, 5, and 6.
Some of the finest comedy slash television ever made. Like,
yeah,
easily.
One of my favourite moments is, my favourite probably quote of The Simpsons ever is, I don't know, when Homer's asked for his first name when he's pretending to be Mr. Burns, and he keeps that voice going, his Mr. Burns voice, when he answers the question. It's just fantastic. I love it.
Isn't that when he becomes Smithers, the new Smithers
no,
episode?
No, that's right. No, this is series 3. There's a lot of good moments in series 3, but in general.
See, I'm sure, Andrew, you can clearly educate us on Simpsons on gaps that we're missing out on.
But what a fantastic idea, Andrew, and glad you're doing it. And good, yeah, well, absolutely. We'll little cross promotion. We'll promote you and you promote. It's synergy. Miles is just bringing his fingers together, and Brent like
Brentism. Hey, I want to wrap this up because I'm bored of talking to you, mate.
Say that every week, mate. It's boring. Actually, ironically.
Sure, let's do the Trout Spinners Library. This is where every week Gary and I select a song and we put it into our little Spotify playlist. There'll be a link in the description. You can listen to all of the songs that we've selected from previous weeks. A lot of Oasis in there.
That's weird.
Yeah. A lot of other stuff in there. Hey, what are you going to put in today?
Well, I think the song, you tell me if I put it in before, because I've put in songs twice before and haven't realised. But a song I do like, I do listen to quite a bit, is Roy Orbison, And it's one of his bigger hits, so it's no little gem or hidden gem or anything, but it's You Got It. I love that song. Just the rolling guitar is kind of very,
I can't
very.
remember if I know that song or not. I feel like I would
No,
if I
you do,
heard
you
it.
do. Everything about you tells me I'm your man. Da, 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 da. You got
Sound,
it. Da, 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 da. You
you
got
sound like Chris Martin as you're singing it.
it. Did I?
Yeah, a little bit.
I haven't got his bank balance, but
Da,
da,
da.
da. That's a good way to
That's
wrap it.
still the fun. That
What's
is
your song, mate?
that is still the funniest thing ever. Yen, 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 yen,
Yeah,
yen.
yeah, yeah. That's not,
Yen,
yeah.
yen, yen. Okay, mine is. I don't know why this week I've been listening to a lot of Suede, the band, not the material. All right.
Good joke, bro. Good joke.
And I'm gonna choose the Wild Ones. I don't know why, because I know Ricky also managed Suede, so there's a bit of a tangential link there, yeah. But I've really been enjoying just listening to Suede doing my work, as I do as you we've all been working from home, and just really nice tone. I think Brett Anson's
I
got a
don't know the song. I don't know the song.
I think Brett Anson's got a really lovely floaty voice, and the guitar sounds really nice. And yeah, I've just been really enjoying it. And I'm a big fan of Britpop anyway, so I'll listen to all those bands. Liked Suede from a long time ago. Anyway, there are our songs. If you do want to get in touch with us, interact with the show in any way, and thank you for listening and for your company today, guys. Really appreciate it. Spinnerspodcast@gmail.com, Spinnerspodcast at Twitter. I can't say that enough. Gary, any final note?
I still don't know how the song thing works, or if you post the song and you click on the link and the online listening. But still don't understand that.
Doesn't matter.
That's my last thought. But no, thanks, guys. And if we didn't read your email out today, we will next show endeavour to do so. Hope you're doing all right in this latest lockdown. And it's sort of mid-January point. It's a bit depressing, isn't it? It's kind of mid-January. Christmas is well over now, and New Year's sort of over, and there's no celebrations for a while. So hope you're doing all right.
But
And
I'll tell you what, if you are looking for something to do and you've got a little bit of spare money knocking around, we've actually just recorded a little Patreon special, and it's all about Gary and ours most embarrassing moments. So if you want to hear some extra shows and that one where you can get to know us a little bit better and a bit more intimately.
yeah.
No, I'm starting to regret I put that show out now, but I'll be putting that out in the next couple of days. So look forward to that and look forward to next week's episode. What do you say, Gary? Agree?
No. Yeah, go on. For the sake of ending the show now, yes, I agree. No, I do agree. And yeah, take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.